Overhyped, underhyped, or appropriately hyped fantasy book talk edition. Let's get these out of the way first. Fourth Wing, overhyped, but Iron Flame, underhyped. Y'all had me thinking this was gonna be so bad, and it was fantastic. A Touch of Golden Madness by K.L. DeVore. This is truly a sci-fi fantasy, post-apocalyptic world, underhyped. The Crescent City series is honestly underhyped. I know everyone and the mother says this takes them forever to get into because it's so different from her other series, but the urban fantasy is so good. Give it a little while to build. Just trust me. The Peaches and Honey duology, underhyped. I loved Addie LaRue a couple years ago. This is that, but better and more believable. Guild series by Raven Kennedy. I will say, caveat, I've not read the entire thing. I'm gonna say it's a little bit overhyped, especially like the first book, so overhyped to me. The Belladonna series is also, I would say, overhyped, especially if you look at it as a whole. Well, the last book did end up being my personal favorite. I know a lot of people were just like done by that point. When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Honestly, this is appropriately hyped. It is not for everyone, but for those people who it is good for, this is it. This is the sauce. The Shepherd King duology by Rachel Gillick is underhyped, and I know it is appreciated, but it's honestly not appreciated enough. I know. Everyone needs to read this. This is a fantastic tarot-based fantasy. It does have a romance subplot, but in kind of the way that the Cruel Prince, the romance is the subplot. The Glacian trilogy by Stacey McEwen is underhyped. When the first book, Ledge, came out, I was seeing a lot more buzz about it, but as the following books, Chasm and then now Valley, have come out, I have barely seen it touched. This is such an underhyped fantasy romance series. Every book will have you guessing. Infertile Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare, aka the first one that happens chronologically. This is very much appropriately hyped. I'm so glad I started this read chronologically, and it is fantastic. You need to meet Will, Jem, and Tessa. Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. Appropriately hyped. I think if you're in the camp where, like, When the Moon Hatched was too long and too much for you, this will also be too long and too much for you. But if not, it's so good. The romance, dare I say, is going to be even better for a lot of people in this book. It's just, yeah, the hype is real. Throne of Glass. All her series, I would say this one is definitely the most appropriately hyped. A lot of people's favorite for a reason, the fantasy being like the focal point here. A Feather So Black by Lyra Celine, and is Swan Lake, The 12 Dancing Princesses, and Fae. Very much underhyped. The next book comes out early 2025. It's an Orbit book. That should tell you what you need to know. The Defy the Night trilogy by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a severely underhyped YA fantasy romance series. It starts off as a little bit of a gender-bent Robin Hood retelling, but it becomes so much more than that. If you've read her before, you know she writes incredibly beautiful and unique magic systems. From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Nowadays on Book Talk, this is about appropriately hyped. A couple years ago, it was definitely overhyped, but I think now it's more like, it's more right on the money. A Court of Thorns and Roses. Overhyped. I'm sorry. Well, I do think this is a great intro to fantasy romance for a lot of people and gets them reading. It is enjoyable, don't get me wrong. This is like her least interesting series. The Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. This one honestly is still underhyped in my opinion. The Gods and Monsters series is exactly what a dark fantasy romance should be. Read it. Crows and Crooked Kingdom. This one is very much appropriately hyped. Fantasy, heist, you're going into this for the character, work, and development and found family. The romances are a fun little bonus, but don't read this for the romance because it's barely there. You survive on crumbs, and we like it that way. However, King of Scars, Rule of Wolves duology, also by Leigh Bardugo. In this world, you need to basically have read Six of Crows series and Shadow and Bone. This is underhyped. Y'all read this. It's Zoya and Nicola, Nina and a new character, and also you get crumbs from everybody else. Underhyped. Whew, okay, almost done. The Bloodgrace series by Bella Roth. Vampires, very political, super underhyped. You're sleeping on this one, trust me. Letters of Enchantment duology, Divine Rivals, and Ruthless Vows. I would say appropriately hyped for Divine Rivals. Kind of everything I want a historical inspired gods fantasy to be. Ruthless Vows was a bit overhyped for me just because I think so many people loved the first one and it was a little bit of a letdown, but honestly it's still a great one. I think it'll grow on me more with like rereads too. And last for this video, we have The War of Lost Hearts by Carissa Broadbent. The series that came out prior to Serpent and the Wings of Night is so underhyped. A bodyguard romance. Who Did This to You? It is a slow burn. It's very political. It is fantastic. Can I just say the audiobooks are so worth it.